everyone. Welcome back to Living Clean with John Clayton. That's me. If you're new here, then welcome. If you've been here before, then welcome back. We're carrying on with, I believe it's chapter 3 from the Living Clean book. The journey continues, and we're in section Walking the Walk. And by the way, I'm a recovering drug addict and alcoholic, and I've been clean and sober since February 21st, 2021. Walking the walk. If our relationship to a power greater than ourselves is to be any use to us, it must be honest. Learning to share our fear, disappointment, and anger takes courage. We pray in different ways. Many of us begin to talk to a higher power using formal prayers, and these can be incredibly powerful tools. I've said the same prayers every day throughout my recovery. One member said they worked really well in the beginning, but now, 20 years later, they have richness and meaning I could not have imagined. In addition, we learn to talk to our higher power in less structured ways, sharing our feelings, hopes, fears, and ideas. It can be important for us to remember to separate the words of a step from what people say about the step. Similarly, a relationship with a higher power, as it develops, may not adhere to the model set before us by others, and it may be very different from what we once imagined it to be. In this way, it really is like our relationship with human beings. Instinctively, intimacy isn't predefined or predictable. Many of us share that one reservation we have about a higher power is that a powerful God would not allow things of addiction wouldn't allow things to happen as they do. What what we saw as we endured the hell of addiction could not possibly have been the creation corner. And it's not our place to choose one for all or our members. What we find is not that our higher power spares us the hardships of life, but that we receive the grace to get through them clean. We can find the lessons in difficulties. We may find that some of the painful situations we once wanted to blame on God are a consequence of our own actions and decisions. Perhaps most importantly, the pain we endure can be transformed into a tool to help others. As we recover and carry the message, we discover that everything we have experienced can be a resource for us to find acceptance, empathy, and the words we need to help someone else find a way up and out of despair. We are powerless over our addiction, but in our surrender, we become powerful tools for transformation. That transformation for each of us begins with surrender. Over and over, we find that acceptance helps to free us from pain and suffering. We begin by accepting that we are addicts. From the first time we admit that we are powerless over our addiction and our lives have become unmanageable, we begin to feel relief, and that relief is the very beginning of the gratitude that will guide us throughout our recovery. Gratitude is not just a mood, it is a course of action, a way of setting ourselves in relation to the world. Sometimes it's discipline. It can take work to hold ourselves in that attitude, especially when we are used to seeing the world through our filters of entitlement and resentment. Humility and gratitude walk hand in hand. We practice saying what we are grateful for, whatever or not we feel it. The feeling may not come naturally at all, but when we practice saying thanks, we start to recognize how much we have to be thankful for. Many of us start with the fact that we're not in withdrawal today. When we start to see how fortunate we really are, our questions don't frighten us as they once did. They may not be answered right away, but we start to see that our questions about the nature of God are much less important than the rewards we get from building a relationship, even if we didn't understand it or fully believe it. Spiritual principles seem abstract until we put them into action. Our values are the principles we adopt to guide us. They may change over time, but when we change them for convenience or to please others, we know it was we know it. We make we make that mistake a few times before we learn to recognize it. We may stop acting on our defects not because it's wrong, but because it just gets too uncomfortable for us. We can't stand the way it makes us feel. Often we act on spiritual principles before we internalize them simply because we want to save our lives. In the beginning, we learn principles by acting on suggestions. As we integrate spiritual principles into our lives, they become values. That is, we come to value some of them enough that they become part of who we are. When we are learning, we may be very rigid in our practice. As our practices become more integrated into our lives, we find that we can soften a little. We, my understanding of honesty was so rigid, said one member, that I could even be tactful to spare someone's feelings. One day, I was caught in a conflict between two sponsees. One called and confessed that he'd done great harm to another who happened to be in the home at the time. Brutal honesty with either of them would have made the situation much worse. I learned to balance the principles of honesty with the principles of anonymity. Since then, I've learned to balance it with kindness and compassion as well. We use the tools we associate with spirituality from our very early recovery. We practice prayer and meditation. We go to meetings, we take suggestions, we work steps. Once we can identify what our spirituality feels like to us, we recognize that other things in our lives are spiritual. Making music is an act of prayer, and for some of us, walking out in nature can be a meditation. I'm not a religious person at all, said one member, but I was out in the ocean one day, floating, and I could feel my connection to the water holding me up, and the sky above, and the people on the shore, and all of it. That feeling of connection was a powerful thing. When we practice our gratitude by sharing with others, we begin to feel our connection with one another and to something bigger. Each time we feel that connection, however, we attain it. We understand a little more. We see ourselves as part of something greater and seek to live in harmony with it. When we achieve that harmony, the freedom we feel is unmistakable. We are freed from our feelings of alienation and inadequacy, and from the self-centered fear that once seemed to impact all our thoughts and actions. That freedom comes and goes, but the first time we feel it, we are given a new hope that life might not have to hurt so much. Addiction is a painful disease. Our spirituality doesn't kill that pain, but it gives us the ability to move through it, past it, and out into the rest of our lives. We can accept our feelings, feel them, and move on. We begin to trust that the pain we feel at moments in our lives will not consume us. We can start to trust ourselves to feel without fearing that our emotions will destroy us. Part of learning is making mistakes. We learn as much by missing the mark as we do by finding our target. Inventory is the process of going back over our experience to discover where we were living in harmony with our values and where we were not. If we didn't take personal inventory, pray, and meditate, we wouldn't know whether we were practicing principles in all our affairs. We wouldn't be aware of reality. The steps keep us in tune with the principles, and they keep us in tune with ourselves. As we get better at it, we can identify earlier and earlier that the points at which we begin to go astray. Often it's the smallest changes that make the biggest differences in our lives. In the same way that a small change in course greatly alters the distinction of ships at sea, small changes in the way we respond to life can free us from old repetitive patterns and open us to new ways of thinking and acting. We practice with spiritual principles. We try them out, go to extremes, drop them altogether, and then find which ones have become important to us. As long as we are willing, we continue to change our values because clear to us as we act. The principles we once practiced as art, exercise, or because it was suggested become a part of us. Things that are profoundly difficult in the beginning of a recovery become second nature to us. We may not notice this change until we fall away from our new habits for a moment. For example, it can be very hard to start going to meetings again when we have been away for a while. Formally, a habit meeting attendance once again requires discipline. It gets easier with practice, just like it did the first time. As we get better at practicing our recovery, we fear ourselves less. We develop new skills and get used to the idea of practicing principles in new areas of our lives. Even when we are scared, we come to know that pain can be a catalyst for growth and not just a threat to our newfound equilibrium. On the other hand, we also learn that pain is not the same as growth. It must spur us to action if we want to find relief from it. We become more willing to take the action that will set us free. As our tolerance for pain starts to diminish, our needs for change come sooner. Okay, well, I guess we'll leave it there for now. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me today again. I appreciate every one of you. It would be great if you joined my community. Um, I know that it will take some time for my reading to get a little bit better, and once I get my glasses fixed and stuff too, it should get a little bit more smoother. It's just so expensive right now. But yeah, so when we come back to the book, we'll be carrying on with spirituality in action. So again, thank you, and we will see you all again real soon.